as we know, green policy, carbon taxes, all the rest of it, climate change is the big issue of our time now that we've dealt with, Brexit and all the rest of it. So, we've dealt with coronavirus. We're coming out of that. So you think, we're introducing all these new tariffs and taxes on energy and transport and all the rest of it to try and reduce our carbon footprints. You might think if carbon dioxide is such a problem, the first things to get cut back would be things like private jets and yachts, because they burn insane amounts of energy for each passenger mile. So yachts, for example, as you can see here, and they're used by, obviously rich guys, like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, who are right behind all this climate change green policy.
They're flying everywhere they can to help go conferences and deal with the issue.
Yeah, like COP26. There's some, like, I can't remember how many private jets. Some like 200 private jets flew in. It was insane, and people were flying in. Extinction Rebellion as well. The Emma Thompson.
What, they flew in?
They didn't fly in. They came in on donkeys probably. But Extinction Rebellion, when they took over Oxford Circus in London, and had all, DJ and all the rest of it. So Emma Thompson saw that this was happening, decided she must do something to act on climate change. So she flew first class from LA to read a poem at a climate change demo about how we all need to stop flying first class from LA. I mean, I don't know. To me, it just proved how necessary jet travel is. But she didn't seem to, I don't know, you should always judge people on what they do rather than what they say. And Emma Thompson, absolutely, just disgusting hypocrite of the highest order. These rules are always for the little person, not for us, as this story shows. So yachts, just hugely polluting. The yachts that Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates have, and yachts that are typical of, the super rich, emit over 7,000 tons of carbon per year, which is just, it blows my mind. Private jets as well, if we move on to the next one, also hugely polluting. So if you scroll down, there's a little graph there.
I don't know why these people can't just get on a plane like everyone else.
So, and yeah, that's the one. So private jet CO2 emissions have risen 31% in Europe between 2005 and 2019. And also they recovered faster from COVID because obviously in a private jet, you don't need to worry about all the COVID regulations and all these things because it's a private jet. You know what I mean? It's your own, you're not mixing with anybody. You've got much more control over the security and all the rest of it. And the next tab shows how much carbon these things actually put out. So, I mean, this is a carbon footprint calculator for private jets. But so, just to take an example, so a VIP Boeing 777 will emit 46 tons of carbon on a 6-hour flight. So the yearly emissions are going to be thousands of tons. Private jets. I mean, it's obvious. You don't even need to tell you. It's obviously going to burn so much carbon. So a 4-hour private jet flight emits as much as the average person does in a year. The next tab shows the greenhouse gas emissions from a typical family car, just 4.6 tons per year. That's when it's being used for commuting and leisure and all the rest of it. Just 4.6 tons per year. Compare that to the yachts, 7,000 tons per year. So, one yacht or one private jet emits the same amount of carbon dioxide as hundreds of families. It's insane. So yeah, and also, like, whenever elites get criticised for having yachts or taking a private jet to a climate change conference, they say, "Oh, but I paid to offset the carbon footprint." So the next tab got Elton John. So he flew to some Prince Harry thing about supporting the environment, and he flew on a private jet. And but he said, to support Prince Harry's commitment to the environment, we ensured their flight was carbon neutral by making the appropriate contribution to carbon footprint TM. But this...
Sorry, what?
It doesn't work like this.
Or is the word carbon footprint trademark, or is that a company he's just given money to?
It's a company. It's a company. It knows how to do
they're like, we bless you for your sins and then pocket the cash?
Exactly. Just like Stonewall do with opinions, this company will do for your carbon footprint. So, they say they offset their carbon footprint, but it just doesn't work like this. Like, long term, you can't just trade credits between countries or, pay a company to plant some trees, or just fill in numbers on a form so it looks like they planted some trees. Like, you can't. If you want to reduce emissions, you've got to do that by reducing emissions. It sounds stupid. It sounds like an obvious thing, but Elton John doesn't get it. You can't reduce your carbon footprint by burning carbon. And, trying to do it by offsetting, by paying somebody to plant trees. That's like Jimmy Savile offsetting his child abuse by donating money to an orphanage. Like, you can't offset a bad that's been done. Like, it doesn't work like that. Like, because any company that says that they're reducing carbon footprints, they generally they plant trees or whatever, but it's generally a bit of a scam. You know what I mean? There's
always look like
dodgy
a scam.
accounting, and trees that would be planted anyway, or trees that actually don't have a net carbon benefit. So anyway, there's all this. So we've shown that private jets and private yachts, shock, horror, they release a lot of carbon. I mean, I was shocked to find that out as well. So you'd think the EU, when they're bringing through their new regulations for transport and emissions and stuff, they do it for private jets and yachts first, seen as, also the yacht travel and private jet travel is increasing far faster than other forms of travel. But actually, the EU are exempting private jets from the jet fuel tax. So this is insane. So the private jets will enjoy an exemption through classification of business aviation as the use of aircraft by firms.
Sorry, every other plane is used for what exactly?
Yeah. And also, like, private jets. So even says a further exemption is given for pleasure flights, whereby an aircraft is used for personal or recreational purposes, not associated with a business or professional use.
Right.
So this is
Just full exemption.
Yeah, just full exemption. Full exemption. So, all these playboys, all these billionaires can take because the average wealth of somebody who has a private jet is £1.3 billion or dollars, $1.3 billion. So it's absolutely insane.
Am I getting this right, though? They're going to put a tax on all jet aircraft for everyone who wants to fly anywhere to do anything. And except if you've got your own private one, in which case, no tax for you, bruv. Exactly.
So they're putting a tariff on, like the sugar tax and like the duties they have on petrol already, but they're going to increase it on jet fuel. So basically, you get your cheap Ryanair flights.
Yeah.
They want to get rid of that. So if you're a family and you fly to Tenerife once a year, they want to make that too expensive for you to go, because obviously, if millions of little people can't go on their holidays, that's going to reduce a lot of the carbon footprint. But they want to make it so the rich people, the elites, who give them money and do all the lobbying to the politicians, can still fly around the world whenever they want. So it's really disgusting. It really shows the sort of the two tiers of green policy. So there's the tier.
They're doing the same with the car as well.
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing. They've subsidised electric vehicles, and they're sort of forcing through electric vehicles. But electric vehicles, they're okay for certain situations. They're good in a city. They're not so good for somebody like me. So I'm a comedian. So on the road, I need to be able to drive to Wales or drive to Hull and drive back. But you can't do that in a Tesla, because you have to drive to Wales, then wait 6 hours while your car charges, because it's only got a range of 500 miles or whatever. So electric vehicles aren't great, and also electric vehicles, it's going to be an end to the sort of the cheap banger market. So when you're 19 years old, you get your first car or whatever, and it's like a bashed up Nissan Micra for 300 quid, but it goes and it works fine. And there'll be an end to that, because the battery pack is it's got to be functioning, and a functioning battery pack is worth a lot of money. So you're not going to have that sort of cheap resale market for electric vehicles, because if it works, it's going to be worth money, and if it doesn't work, it's not any use. Yeah. And it's going to be really bad for people living in the countryside as well. It's going to push up costs for people living in the countryside. We're seeing these tariffs come through on energy as well. So because wind farms and solar farms and renewables are subsidized so heavily, other people's fuel, other people's energy is taxed to pay for that. So it works out about 27% the extra money you're paying on top of your energy bills to pay for wind farms, which don't even work. So wind farms, they don't... there's some debate as to whether they're even carbon efficient, because you've got to expend all the carbon manufacturing them. But then, the last 4 months have been very calm, so there hasn't been enough wind.
You ever seen how you de-snow them?
No, how do you do
Because
it?
they're up there covered in snow. You need to get the snow off. So what do? You get in a helicopter with a flamethrower, fly the helicopter up, go next to the wind farm and burn the snow off.
That's not
hilarious.
South Park. That's
Yeah.
real life. That's insane. That is like, so helicopters burn a lot of carbon.
Yeah.
And flamethrowers also not particularly carbon efficient because of the flames.
Don't worry, it's electronic flamethrower, I swear.
So, and also, if we move on to, basically, yachts as well are going to be exempt. I forgot to put the link in, but yachts are also going to be exempt from these.
Sorry, have you ever seen super yachts? Like the fact that a bunch of them lined up in like Nice or something. You ever notice how they all look the bloody same?
Yeah.
I've always found that weird, because I watched a video from a guy called Laserpig recently who pointed this out. And, you have the bigger yacht because you want a bunch of hot babes on your yacht, right?
Yeah.
But I was always thinking, like, if you wanted to get at the, stand out and look interesting, surely you'd buy, like, I don't know, an old-timey huge ship or, scale a replica of the Titanic or something like that. Not just the same yacht, but bigger. Or
Yeah.
I don't really get, why are they all these white, weird models and that's it?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
the most daring thing is they might paint it black or blue or, and then, look at that. Sorry, just a
No, I knew a lass who worked crewing private yachts as well, and the waste on them as well. So, I mean, super rich people, they have like a bunch of properties all around the world. Like she worked for Russian oligarchs, and so they've got properties all around the world, and the properties have to be kept in tip-top condition. It's the same with the yachts. So yachts are all, because they might just decide, I'm going to the yacht, like now. So the yacht has to be kept tip-top, so it's always running. The engines are always running. The generators and everything are running. It's being manned and cleaned and everything. And they're constantly buying in food. So there was just constantly food on board that perishes and then just gets thrown away. Like lobster, because these people are so rich that the money is literally no object. They're generating more money from if you're a Russian oligarch, all the businesses you stole from the state. So there's just huge waste and profligacy, and you'd think if you wanted to reduce the carbon footprint of humanity, then you'd start with those kinds of people. But obviously those people have the political influence and the control and the money to influence politics. Because trust me, there's a lot of corruption in politics. There's a lot of money changes hands behind the scenes. So or even in front of the scenes, as we've seen with the dodgy government COVID contracts, and also people being given really nice roles at corporations after they've left office. So that's like an open backhander. But basically the EU isn't. So yachts and private jets are going to be exempt. And meanwhile, they're bringing in lots of policies that are going to affect us. So if you aspire to having a conservatory, sorry, but new regulations are going to state that window size must be limited. And if you want to build a conservatory, you're going to have to prove that your house doesn't overheat with this conservatory, because that would mean you'd have to have air conditioning on, I should imagine. Although I had a conservatory, my mum's place in Scotland had a conservatory. Trust me, it never got too hot. If anything, it was nice having a room that you could go in and like feel like you're in the sunshine sometimes. You know what I mean? So yeah, if you want a conservatory, you're going to have to jump through hoops and spend lots of money proving that it's not going to be too hot. If we move on to the next one, we've also got, so the way energy performance certificates, when you look at flats, they've got that thing and it's got the green to red banding and it shows you where your flat is, and they do it for fridges and all the rest of it. It shows you how energy efficient your house is. So the way they're calculated actually disincentivizes the installation of heat pumps, and heat pumps are great. I think how they work is they pump water down into the earth and it gets heated up by basically magma. It shakes hands with the devil, comes back up, and then you can have a shower in it, and
the devil water.
Yeah, you got this devil water, and so they're a very energy efficient way to do it. The only thing is they're run by electricity. So at the moment, the way it's calculated assumes that electricity is bad, because at the moment we get a lot of our electricity from burning gas and burning fossil fuels. Whereas in the future, electricity is going to be mostly decarbonized. So the way the energy certificates are calculated disincentivizes the installation of these energy efficient heat pumps. I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever. It's like doing maths in your head. But basically, people are being disincentivized from doing this. Is government policy, green policy, but it's disincentivizing a green thing. Move on to the next one. Recycling is also backfiring. So when you go to the supermarket, you're supposed to pay for carrier bags now.
Yeah, in this country.
Do you have you ever paid for one, or do you just?
I just take my rucksack now, to be honest.
Oh, right.
It's not changed anything because I never use them for bin bags anyway.
Yeah.
So now I just buy bin bags.
Well, yeah, and these plastic bags, so I use them for bin bags as well. I don't pay. I refuse to pay. You know what I mean? It's like a license fee. I'm not paying for a plastic bag. What sort of madness is that? And yeah, like, so now I've just got like drawers stuff. I used to, have drawers stuffed with these very flimsy light bags. Now they're stuffed with these ones that you could use them as a sleeping bag. They're so tough. So there's obviously far more plastic in the ones that you pay for. But anyway, yeah, so I did some calculations, or somebody else did some calculations, and I saw them on the internet and wrote them down. The replacement, yeah, here we go. So we used to have single-use plastic bags, and this shows you how many uses you need to use a bag to make it more environmentally friendly than a single-use plastic bag. So even paper bags, you think they're environmentally friendly. Wrong. You got to cut down trees that have probably been planted by Elton John when he's offsetting a private jet ride. You got to cut down trees. There's toxic chemicals that are used in the manufacturing, and then you've got to ship them around and whatever. So there's 4 times as much carbon in the creation of paper bags than in single-use plastic bags, and it gets worse. So if you go up to bag for life, you've got to use it like 8 times. A non-woven PP bag, whatever that is, I've no idea. You've got to use that like 12 times, and cotton bags. Because cotton uses so much water as well in its manufacture. You got to use it like 130 times.
I think it's the one the co-op gives you
to make it.
Because they care so much.
Yeah. Yeah, so like these replacements for single-use plastic bags ain't that great. Also, there's going to be a tax on businesses if they don't use at least 30% recycled material in their packaging. But some businesses reuse packaging. For example, like bars, bottled drinks in Scotland. So you get they come around with the Iron Brew and you get the money back and all the rest of it. But so they reuse the bottle and it just gets rinsed out.
What?
A lot of.
If I go to a bar in Scotland and get some Iron Brew.
No, bars it's got 2 R's. It's
it's
the brand of the fizzy pop. So yeah, but they come around and you hand the bottle back. You can collect all the Iron Brew bottles up over a month, and then that's that'll pay for a night out because each one's like 25 pence or something. I can't remember. I used to do that when I was at uni. Just have so many bottles, but yeah, basically the plastic packaging tax is going to come in and penalise companies that don't use at least 30% recycled plastic in their packaging. But some companies actually reuse the packaging instead of recycling it. And recycling it is actually quite an energy intensive process. It's much better to reuse it. So this is giving an incentive to companies to stop reusing, which is reusing stuff is, in environmental terms, the absolute best you can do. Uses very little energy and obviously reuses the packaging. They'll be incentivized to recycle instead, which burns a lot of energy. Communication as well, like businesses are being told, there's no actual legislation around this, but businesses are being told to use email instead of paper. But email has a carbon footprint because you're burning that electricity. So yearly, for an average office worker, it's 0.6 tons. That's how much carbon is released just with all that email. I don't know how much is released from Pornhub, but for perspective, the entire annual carbon footprint of someone in India is 1.5 tons. Commuting as well. Businesses are installing green light bulbs and insulation and energy efficient generators and all the rest of it, but there's a big carbon footprint from commuting. 98% of an employee's carbon footprint is from commuting. So it's all commuting. It doesn't matter what happens in the office. The average American commutes to work by car just under an hour each day, and that works out to roughly 32 miles and equates to 3.2 tons of CO2 per person every year just commuting to work. So, there's a lot of green policy out there that's actually counter effective. It's not gonna improve our lives, and
Or
obviously
openly corrupt.
or openly corrupt, like the exemption for yachts and private jets. So. Green policy. It looks to me, because green policy is based on quite opaque science and a consensus across all this. It's sort of it's becoming a mantra, a religion. You're not allowed to question it. Anybody who questions it is a denier, even when you could just be raising issues such as because
I'd rather have nuclear than wind. Science denier.
yeah, and a lot of scientists say nuclear is much better than wind. It can run as much. We get so much energy, so much electricity from France, which gets 75% of its electricity from nuclear power. So France didn't get rid of its nuclear power station, so they send us electricity under the sea, under cables. And yeah, nuclear is great because it can run whenever you need it. It's just a constant. It's constantly on, whereas wind turbines are just on when the wind blows. And unless you've got somewhere to store that energy, then it's gone. Unless you can sell it to another country. So yeah, a lot of the science doesn't add up. Even the concept of carbon being in the atmosphere being bad. So the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has risen 12% over the last few decades. The time that they're worried about, but historically it's still incredibly low. So pre-Cambrian times it was like 8,000 parts per million in the atmosphere. So it was really high. There's obviously a lot of green vegetation. It wouldn't be so good for humans back then. You wouldn't actually be able to breathe or stay awake. But it came down to, I think, 360 parts per million. And it's risen to about 440 parts per million. So it's still, it's pretty low compared to prehistoric times. But this increase in carbon dioxide during since the Industrial Revolution, this increase in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has actually, because it's basically plant fertilizer. So now we're seeing the greening of parts of the desert because plants don't lose as much moisture because they don't need to open their stomata. I mean, you say stomato, I say stomata, but they don't need to open their stomata, which is their breathing hole, as much to get as much air in because there's more carbon dioxide in the air. So we're seeing the greening of previously arid areas.
So if you want to green the planet, drive more of your car.
Exactly. And people talk about rising sea levels. I mean, they don't seem to be rising that much. The Maldives is expanding and building airports. If they were worried, Barack Obama bought like a $16 million house at sea level. Martha's Vineyard. Like, why would he buy it? If he really believed this stuff, that he appears on TV and says, we've got to worry about this stuff, why would buy one up a hill? Buy one just, at least 100 feet up a hill. Then you're safe. But he's bought one at sea level. So I don't buy all this climate change, catastrophizing. I don't think it's going to be that. I think there's going to be changes. There's going to be bad things, but there's going to be a lot of benefits. Like a lot of tundra is going to be opened up as viable farmland. There's and also the temperature around the equator. Everybody has this idea that the Sahara is going to boil and all the rest of it. It's not. The changes are mostly in the sort of upper and lower hemispheres rather than at the equator. So I think governments are using climate change as a scaremongering to increase taxes, increase their own power,
except on themselves,
and their friends who have the private jets and the yachts. And this is a classic example. So yeah, this is something that we're going to be digging into more over the next few years as green policy overtakes from COVID and Brexit as the leading drivers of policy.
I'm glad to see they're being so openly corrupt though, because I know they are trying to basically destroy the car at this point.
Yeah.
Which I can see that argument, but I don't trust it for a minute because they're like, yes, no, but not my car. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I what I don't like about Teslas? My mate's got a Tesla and I went in it with him and it was amazing. Went really fast, really good acceleration, but it's got this thing that tells you, it's like a mobile phone battery, where it says like 87% battery left. It shows you how many miles you got left. And if you super accelerate, then that thing just goes, you can see it going down. And it just gave me that anxiety. You know, it gave me low battery anxiety. Just seeing it going down.
Yeah.
It was Whereas with my car, I've got an Audi. Like, it's red. It's really fast.
pull
It's
over,
really
get
cool. And you pull over, put some petrol in it. No anxiety whatsoever.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can go over to lotuseaters.com to subscribe to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as this video, which is Contemplations, that went up over the weekend about why the mainstream media are terrible and are bad for you. But if you'd like to keep up with what else is coming out on the website, you can always follow us on Getter. So you could go, for example, to see more from Josh at Josh's Getter account here at Josh_firm. Thank you and goodbye.